87-year-old, actually 88-year-old man walks into my office, has been my patient for 20 plus years, and is describing various ailments, and he's already been to multiple doctors and goes over various blood tests that he brought with him. Also complains that he has been becoming forgetful. Wife also has noticed he forgets a lot of things. He was diabetic, so I ordered some 3 months blood sugar check for him. As he's waiting for the results to come, he's very restless. And as soon as I told him that the readings were good, he feels relieved. And his wife says, every time we get any test done, we get nervous, anxious. What if something goes wrong? And what if something bad comes up? Who does not have anxiety? This man has lived fully his life at the age of 88, which is over and beyond anybody would even expect or even want to be beyond that age. He has reached there. And yet, he has never learned how to win over his mind. Anxiety grips him even at this late stage of life. It shows the anxiety is universal. Trying to talk to him about learning how to win over the mind at the age of 88 is almost fruitless, because his age-old beliefs, ways of life has been fixed. Not much change is possible. Anxiety is an universal disease. Universal disease because the world has become material. Matter is in a constant change. Matter keeps on changing all the time. And yet, mind has its own desires. Mind wants certain things to be fixed in a certain way. We insist on the outcomes of the day-to-day life events. We insist on our spouse to be functioning the way we want them to function. We want the world to function the way we want them to function. We want the nature to behave according to our wish. So we resist all the time. We are never happy with whatever we have, and yet we keep on demanding more and more out of life. And this life is what includes your spouse, your parents, your family, your friends, the nature, everything. We have put a lot of demands. Once we put the demands, we look forward to what is going to happen to these demands. Did God follow my commands or not? Did my wife behave the way I told her to behave? Did my husband behave the way I told him to behave? Or my employees, or my friends, or president, or country, or Iran, or Iraq, or whatever. The world is full of different entities, and each one of them is behaving, and we have no control on all these things, and yet we keep on insisting on our demands on them. Anxiety is a byproduct of these desires. Once you put the desire, that means you are fixed on certain outcome out of life. whether it is a examination paper and you expecting a good credit, or it is something that you have to deal with in the future, and the process has already started, like a lawsuit, or invested in a business, or bought a stock. Whatever you think, you're gonna have to deal with it, and you put your desire onto it as far as its outcome. And obviously your mind will be focused on the future of this particular situation, and your mind will be continuously active to analyze the outcomes. Now, outcomes don't happen instantaneously. It may take a day, 2 days, a year, 2 years, or 10 years, or whole life. But we keep on keeping our mind occupied to think about the future. And out of millions of different possibilities, one outcome is going to come out, but we think of millions of possibilities. In this scenario, the mind keeps on running from various outcomes that could be possible, various situations that can arise from one situation that you have in front of it. So mind loses its connection with the present and is continuously running into the future. And this generates the anxiety. And because we have lost the way of life, we all have an epidemic of anxiety. How do you deal with anxiety? Meditation has an amazing way of dealing with anxiety. But what is required is continuous, steady practice of meditation. As you meditate and you go within, you learn how to observe your body, your breath, your heartbeats, and eventually your thoughts, and even further, your beliefs, ideas, everything that is contained within your mind. By careful observation, practicing the awareness, you start becoming aware of the intricate workings of your mind. Whenever you see a motion, in this case the motion of the thoughts of the mind, by observing or being aware of the motion, you automatically find yourself thrown into a zone of steadiness, peace, and tranquility. Whenever we are anxious, we always say that I am anxious, I am stressed out. And that's where our mistake comes into action. By meditation, we have to learn how to create a separate entity away from the mind. When the mind is running, thinking of the future, thinking of the past, the awareness starts creating a distance between an unknown, infinite entity of consciousness looking at the motion of the thoughts of the mind. And thoughts can include anything, not just the anxiety, stress, anger, hatred, superiority complex, inferiority complex. All these things are stored at the mind level. And at this level, by becoming a witness of these events happening in the mind, one starts separating your own self from the negativities which are building up in the mind. Now, obviously, this is a feeling that nobody likes. Nobody wants to be anxious. Nobody likes to be stressed out. But our mistake has been that we have not been able to identify our self as our Atma, our inner consciousness, our soul as a separate entity. And until that happens, we go and attach ourselves to the mind. We cling to the mind. We cling to the body because our consciousness has not matured enough yet. So every time our mind is anxious, we say, I am anxious. When your body is tired, we say, I am tired. We never say, when our car is not functioning, we never say, I am not functioning. Because we know we and the car are two separate things. So, by meditation, you can learn gradually to create a separation from your inner consciousness, which is the ultimate recognizing power. The presence of the mind, the body, the thoughts, everything is illuminated by this inner consciousness. And via meditation, one can reach into that zone. And when the mind starts becoming anxious, you can say that mind is anxious, but not me. It takes time, but with gradual persuasion and gradual practice of dipping into your inner consciousness, one can start recognizing a clear entity of the inner consciousness separate than the mind itself. Mind is full of forms because mind is matter. Mind deals with matter. You cannot touch mind, but mind is all about material world, whether it's people, objects, situations. But the consciousness is spiritual. It is formless. It is shapeless. It is sizeless. It is attributeless. It is colorless. And it is not limited like the mind. Because mind is limited because it's based on the matter. So by observing the matter of the mind, you become spiritual. By observing the finiteness of the mind, you become infinite. By observing the forms which are stored at the mind level, you become formless. So, with little persuasion, you can develop your individual identity of your inner consciousness. So, how does that help in day-to-day life? So, through the meditation, if you can learn how to be a witness of your mind and the body, and in day-to-day life also, you can start witnessing your own mind and the body activities. And with sense of awareness, with sense of being a witness, if you can let mind do its own job of being stressed out, but you remain a witness, a major revolution is going to happen where you're not going to say, I am anxious. Because every time we used to say, I am anxious, we were reinforcing that we are the mind, we are the body. But this practice has to stop. After regular repetitive meditation, you start realizing that yes, mind is dealing with the world. It is coming across various events which are not liked by the mind. Mind is trying to find the solution for it. But you are only a consciousness, aware of the activity of the mind. And you're not going to cooperate with the mind. You're going to watch it as a separate entity. So the first time the mind has to act on its own. And you know what? Without the support of the consciousness, mind cannot go too far. Consciousness is the energy that is within us, which provides the energy for all our thinking process, energy in your beliefs, energy in your ideas, and of course the energy for your body to act out whatever your mind had wanted. But with gradual persuasion on a day-to-day life, you start observing. And when the anxiety or the stress is being observed, the inner consciousness has the power which is beyond your imagination. And by dissociating itself from the activity of the mind with repetitive practice, you are letting the mind act out on its own. Mind stops getting any supports from you, because now you are the consciousness. And just by witnessing head on, without being afraid of the anxiety or the stress, you watch it head on without being afraid. Because before, you used to go along with it and label yourself as an anxious person, label yourself as a stressful person. But no, you are not that person anymore. You are not anxious, you are not nervous, you are not stressed out. You are the almighty, infinite consciousness, just doing its job to be aware of whatever the intricate activity of the mind is taking place in front of it. So without any cooperation, without any association, and heading the negativities of the mind, little by little comfort starts coming up. And a deep field of infinite consciousness starts opening up within you, and not just the anxiety. The same technique can be used for stress, for anger, greed. Everything can be observed in the light of the inner awareness. Just the way thieves cannot commit their robbery in the broad daylight because the sunlight makes them exposed. Similarly, in the light of inner consciousness, your negativities of your mind starts getting exposed. When you were cooperating and going with the anxiety, you were becoming anxious yourself, and you were identifying yourself as anxious person. And that was lack of the light of awareness. You were becoming unaware. You were going and attaching yourself to the mind and the body, which is the state of unawareness. So what you need in your life is the full awareness. And with the full awareness, without expecting any results, just learn to observe the activities of your mind, but do not cooperate. Then little by little, anxiety starts going away. And with repetitive cycles, you keep doing this, eventually you become free from the anxiety. And then you find yourself a very happy, joyous state, which is totally carefree about the material events which is happening in front of you in the sansar. Have a good day.